welcome back to the channel. This is another episode of the Q&A, and this one is going to focus on filming.
So can you give us a list of your camera equipment and what are the essentials for filming for someone starting out?
Right, before I get into this Q&A, I just want to make it clear I'm not a professional filmmaker. I've not been formally trained. I'm self-taught through reading books, watching films, going on online courses and watching what other people do. So now that that's clear, I'll give you the tips that I'm able to share.
Okay, starting out on YouTube, just start with your phone. Don't buy any drones, fancy cameras or anything. Just start with your phone because you can easily make a really good, compelling story with just your phone. And if you can't make a compelling story with your phone, then buying a big flash camera won't make any difference, and a drone won't help either.
Some people get confused by the term story. Every video that you make is going to be a story, and every story needs a start, middle and end. So you might be going on a trip, and so a trip to France is the general story. But of course, to make an entertaining film, that story is going to be broken down into little sub-stories. And anything can be a story. So let's take, for instance, a story segment of cooking a meal. It's going to need a start, middle and end. So the start may well be you getting the ingredients together and explaining them. The middle would be the actual cooking process, and the end would be you eating that food and reacting to it. Provided you get all the story elements, you'll have no problem creating your film. To keep the story interesting, you're going to need plenty of shots from different viewpoints. When you watch us in the van, you'll quite often see me placing the camera in different locations just so it doesn't become too boring with the same static image. Shots need to change every few seconds. I saw one person describe it as that the shot should change as often as you blink. And if you follow that rule, the visual element will be good to watch.
The next tip I'll say is understand the basics of videography, right? Don't think the blooming camera's got to keep moving. Most of my shots, if you watch my shots, they're static, okay? Every shot that I try and frame has a subject in it. It might not be immediately evident to you, but there is something I've seen that I want to try and show you. So I frame that subject using the rule of thirds because it makes your images look pleasant to the viewer, doesn't it? Most cameras these days have an option to turn on a rule of thirds grid in the settings. Where the lines cross and the red circles are, that's where you would place your subject. The horizon should be either on the upper or lower line, depending on what you're trying to get into the shot. To make your life easier in the edit, use the 4-second rule. So every shot must be held steady and perfect for a minimum of 4 seconds, and then you'll have something that's usable when you come to edit.
There is nothing more frustrating than when you get back to edit the film, you find your clips are too short. So I say follow the 4-second rule. When you're starting out, actually, I'd say film a minimum of 6 to 10 seconds per clip. As you get more and more experienced, you'll form in your mind how you intend to use that clip and film accordingly. But in the early days, if you make your clips longer than normal, then you'll never be short of footage in the edit. And that's particularly important if you ever want to cut your clips to the beat of music.
Don't hose pipe. Hose piping is where you haven't got a clue about what your subject is and you just start going across the view and then coming back and then going up and down, and that will just make your audience feel sick.
It's very important to respect your audience. Nobody likes to watch shaky footage, hear a lot of wind noise, or watch pans that are carried out much too fast. I like to hold my shots long enough for the audience to take in everything that's in the picture, but no longer.
And also understand that the camera shows its true resolution and clarity when the camera is held still. The second you move it, everything goes a little bit fuzzy. And so keeping the camera still makes your shots enjoyable to watch, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And keep an eye out for what's nice. You go to a place and you're trying to portray that place in its best light. As you're walking around, you should develop an eye for a shot. You're looking at a view and you think that's pleasant. Okay, so then capture that view. But the point is this: don't spend a lot of money on equipment. I've wasted a fortune on cameras, haven't I?
Yeah. And if you want to be making videos for YouTube, you don't want any really big cameras because they're just such a pain to be carrying around with you when you're out and about.
If you ever sigh at the thought of taking your camera with you on the walk, then your camera's too big. And believe me, I've got a cupboard full of big cameras that I never bother to take out with me. This is why a smartphone is so good, because it's always with you. And today's smartphones can rival some of the DSLRs for picture quality, even though some people wouldn't like to admit that.
So just to go through the cameras that you've got again.
So I use a Canon SX740 is my latest pocket camera. So that's a pocket zoom camera.
And what time zoom does that have?
That has a 40 times optical zoom. All I've got is a little piece of fluffy material glued over the microphone so that I don't suffer from wind noise on that. And funnily enough, the audio from that camera is surprisingly good.
When you zoom in on people, it can pick up.
It focuses in on what they're saying.
Audio.
Have to be a bit careful about that.
Yeah.
So you need that in order to get close-ups. You can't, with a phone, you will have or an action camera, you've got this wide shot all the time, and that can become quite boring. So you need a zoom to bring subjects large in the screen. Make sure you're filming people. The most interesting thing, the first thing that will catch a person's eye in any image is a person. That goes way back to the time when we had to run for our lives and stuff. The eye spots people first, animals second, and then interesting bright colours, dark, high contrast, movement. So I like to show a lot of people enjoying a place because that allows me to put you right there with us,
if you're there,
because that's what you'll be looking at with your eyes as you're walking around. You'll be taking all of this in, and most people don't show it. It's a shame, really, because I think people enjoying a place is part of the experience.
Creates the atmosphere, doesn't it? It makes you feel you're really there.
Yeah.
And then you've got your Osmo action camera.
Yeah, I've had lots of GoPros. GoPro is the most popular camera, action camera. They're great for walking around because the stabilization is so good. Although I'd say to you, you shouldn't really be moving with a camera unless there's a reason to be moving with the camera. So perhaps you need to show a reveal, i.e. you come from behind a set of trees and you want to show the view that suddenly comes into view. All of my experience with GoPro has been absolutely abysmal. Most unreliable cameras I've ever had. DJI Osmo Action just works. You press the button, it records. It never touch wood. It's never ever let me down, which means I've never missed a shot. Yet with those GoPros when we were in Ireland, I missed shot after shot after shot. And you always had to stop, take the camera apart, take the blooming battery out.
Put it back in.
Never happens with these.
Yeah.
And then I used the DJI Mini 2 drone, which I know they're bringing out the DJI Mini 3 soon. I highly doubt I'll upgrade unless, God forbid, something happens to the Mini 2, then I would. But the DJI Mini 2 is brilliant because you can fly it almost anywhere and remain within the rules. A drone is not just for beautiful aerial shots of the scenery, it's also a great tool for getting yourselves in the picture without having to set up a tripod. A drone can place you in the environment much better than any handheld camera. And those three things pack down very small, don't they?
Yeah.
The other thing I use is a tripod a lot. All my camera shots from the Canon are on tripod. So that's a bit of a hassle carrying the tripod, but it's an ultralight carbon fibre one. And I do like shooting from a tripod. Just makes it so much better, the picture quality.
Yeah. How long do you spend editing each video? How many episodes do you edit and schedule at a time? And what is your process for writing and recording narrations?
I don't write narrations. Well, that's untrue. I have on a couple of occasions written a narration. If it's a complex subject and I want to make sure I say things in the correct order and the correct time, but that's mainly been training videos.
Yeah.
I never write a narration for any of these videos.
I'd always recommend using narration rather than saying something live at the time. The trouble with saying it live is if you fluff it, you'll have to do the shot again. And also, what you actually end up saying might not be appropriate to the story that you're trying to tell. Using narration gives me the benefit of hindsight. So by the time I've come to edit this, I already know all of the clips that I managed to capture. And so therefore I can use narration to set up the audience for viewing clips that are coming up later on, particularly about storms or dodgy drivers or something like that. I can make a reference to it, and then very soon after that reference I can show that clip. If I was recording live, I wouldn't have that freedom at all.
So what's your process as you go through?
Well, first of all, you've got to get the right shots, because without the right shots you haven't got a movie. What was the question again? It's because I had it in my mind.
How long do you spend?
Oh, how long do I spend? Right. I used to spend 3 to 4 days making a film because I became something of a perfectionist. Don't do that. Don't fall into that trap. If you're going to start a YouTube channel, make your videos to a certain standard and stay there. Don't try and to become some photographic genius, because all you'll do is drive yourself mad and you'll give up YouTube because it's just too onerous. So I went from 3 to 4 days to produce one episode to now I can bat out an episode in a day, can't I? And when I say a day, I'm probably about 5 or 6 hours. And I constantly strive to get quicker and quicker and quicker. And in an ideal world, I'd knock out an episode in a couple of hours. I'd love to get to that. I'm pretty sure I can get to that at some point.
You get quicker through experience. So if you want to be quick at editing, you have to make a lot of films. And by making a lot of films, you get to understand your editor a lot more and make use of keyboard shortcuts. And that's primarily how I am reducing my workload for editing. I make sure I collect good quality clips and all the clips I need to tell the story, and in just the right length, so that when I get back into the edit I don't have any trouble.
And how many episodes?
Depends on the trip.
Depends on the trip.
Yeah.
How many episodes have we currently got in abeyance? We're up to episode 2 of the Lake District trip.
So episode 3 is going live on Friday.
And waiting to be shown, we're up to episode 8 on YouTube, uploaded and ready.
Yeah.
I used to do 2 videos a week. That's just too onerous. And so now we only do 1 video a week. And the reason I do that is because it allows me to give up editing on the road, which is great. And also, if I lose my mojo, and I think you'll find every filmmaker loses their mojo at some point, I certainly do, I could stop video production for the next 8 weeks and you wouldn't know, because there's all those episodes stacked up.
To go out.
By which time I'll have refound my mojo and I want to get back out there and do more. So you know.
Plus, we've got this trip we're currently on now as well. We've been filming, so when we get home, you've got some more to edit
Yeah.
while we're at home.
Yeah.
And then that'll all be ready in the bag, waiting to go live when we can go off on the next trip.
Yeah.
Do you ever travel without the camera rolling? If yes, where? And do you wish you'd taken the camera? Did you enjoy it more without the camera? Well, we do consider it. Yeah. Now, there was a trip we did many years ago when we went to America. We went to New England.
Yeah.
And we hired a car and stayed in hotels and motels.
Yeah.
And we didn't film at all.
This was way before YouTube, wasn't
Way
it?
before YouTube. Yeah, we're talking about 2001, 2002. Because we'd done so many trips where we had been filming, we thought we're just going to go and not bother filming. And I don't think we didn't even take any photos because we've got no record of it.
Virtually nothing of that trip.
And we
bitterly regret that.
We really regret it now.
I think the issue there was I used to do a lot of filming. I was really bad at it.
I've been making films since I was about 15-year-old when my parents gave me my first cine camera.
Of course, in those days, everything was silent, and I was experimenting using models in the back garden to create a film. There were about 6 of us all together making this film, and we filmed a lot of it up on the South Downs.
Okay, that's enough of that. Onwards with the Q&A.
Editing the videos was a lot of hard work back then. Now it's very easy with using computers and it's all being digital.
And plus the cameras were so big then. I think that was the thing, the big camcorders. And
I got fed up with it.
Didn't want to carry them around.
No. So, sometimes I think about not doing it. This trip, we've done hardly any of the normal filming we would do.
Yeah. Well, the idea of this trip was to come away and film very little, really, wasn't it? But funnily enough, we found going out, you just get back in the swing of it again, don't you?
Yeah.
And we have filmed quite a lot, actually.
Mostly filming gives me pleasure.
Yeah, you enjoy it.
I enjoy, I like seeing shot. As I'm walking down the road, I see a shot and I think, oh, that's a nice shot. And I like to stop and take it. But yeah, there are times, I think every YouTube channel, if they were being honest, would say there were times they get fed up with doing it. And some of them, many of them stop, don't they?
Yeah.
There's several that we used to watch that have just disappeared and stopped.
Just not doing it anymore.
But yeah, we do, coming back to the question, we do sometimes think, I mean, I was out yesterday and I took all my kit with us, didn't I?
Yeah.
And we walked along a beach and we got halfway there and we were coming back and I just dumped the bag off, didn't I? It weighed an absolute ton.
Well, you had the drone, the tripod,
everything.
2 cameras, all the microphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The light
It does weigh a lot.
What I've learned is you don't need big cameras. To be honest with you, I could do 99% of it on my phone if I wanted to.
A lot of people do.
A lot of people do, and it's fine.
Someone said, do you ever worry that someone may run off with your camera when you leave it on a tripod?
Well, it would be a lie to say that it's not been in my thoughts. Before I put my camera on a tripod, I've sussed everybody out that's around it. And I know I'm not going to be that far away from it. So I think the risk for me, touch wood, is incredibly low.
You always just be aware of who's around and what area you're in. But
be even more aware if you're filming with your phone, because a phone is a much more stealable item than a camera.
Yeah.
I probably make light of this, but security is of course an issue. And if you're ever in a situation where you feel uncomfortable whilst you're filming because you're suspicious of somebody that's near you or has come onto the scene, then stop, put that camera away and go somewhere else. Far better to avoid a problem than to deal with it after it's happened.
But no, it's never bothered me. I think it's important sometimes to get yourself in the picture, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's good to get you both in the photo at the same time.
Yeah.
So tripod's a great thing to use when you're out and about.
Yeah. Don't have yourself in the picture that much.
No.
There's some channels we watch and all you got is the person's face in the frame.
Oh yeah, and
Not
you don't
keen
get
on
to
that.
see any of the view.
No, you don't get to see. You know,
Yeah.
you've got to understand. Well, I suppose there are channels, aren't they, where the people are just the channel.
If it's a true
Full stop.
vlog channel, yeah.
But
that's
for us watching, I like to see some of the people. I like to hear what they've got to say. I don't like any sort of performance, so I don't like any acting
fake.
or
Yeah.
fake happiness or fake excitement.
Yeah.
And I like to know about the place because I'm watching you to see whether we want to go there.
Yeah, see
and I
what
think
it's
a
like.
lot of viewers are doing that, aren't they?
Yeah.
The last tip I'll give you on filming is to make sure you're watching plenty of other people's films and develop a critical eye when you're watching them. You know what you like and you also know what you don't like, but most of us tend to watch things in a sort of passive mental state. If you want to be good at making films, watch other people's films and be critical of them. Identify the bits that you like and the bits that you don't like. And then, of course, make sure that your own films don't have any of the bits that you don't like and have all of the bits that you've seen others do so well. If you follow that, you'll be a good filmmaker.
Thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, well done.